Step by step, we are reawakening Château de Pernon. Her stones and slate, her wallpaper and tones, her parks and gardens. But can we reawaken the people who once lived here? People lost to us through the centuries. This week, we take you on a heartbreaking journey to piece together the forgotten life of one of Château de Pernon's first inhabitants. This room was originally the bedroom of the Marquis and the Marquise who constructed Pernon, a very modern living arrangement sharing a bedroom. But the small room behind, which today serves as Tim and my bedroom, when Pernon was first constructed, the Château archives tell us this was the room of the daughter of the Marquis and the Marquise. The low ceiling height allowed for her maid's room above. And the bell for her to be summoned reminds us of Adelaide's time here at the Château. But who was Adelaide, and why is there so little information about her? We know the details of the lives of her two brothers, one Auguste, an officer in the French army executed during the Revolution, the other Edouard, eventually becoming the heir to Pernon and the mayor of our local village, but Adelaide has been completely lost to us. So how do we begin the painstaking task of piecing back together a life when we have nothing but a name? Our search for Adelaide has brought us here to the Mayor's office, where we're hoping to find the birth, deaths and marriage registers that go back before the Revolution and hopefully find some trace of Adelaide here. Donc Emily, on essaie de trouver des informations sur Adelaide Achard de la Haye. So these are all the registers of the commune, and Peru right now, our village is only 400 people, so it's a very small village, but at the time it was a lot larger.
À 1792.
1792, oui, oui, ça c'est parfait.
C'est 78, oui, on va déjà regarder. Alors, le 27e jour d'octobre, 27 octobre.
Oui! We found Edward's birth notification.
1778.
He's baptized the next day.
Charles Achard,
Seigneur de la Haye,
Châtelain
de
de Pernon.
Verru, Brisé, chevalier de l'ordre militaire de Saint-Louis, et deux dames bénies modestes de la Montbarrasset.
So Edward was Pernon's
Donc,
heir.
Edouard est né en 1778.
Oui,
Et Adélaïde,
après lui.
c'est sa sœur.
Oui,
Exactement.
ouais.
Après.
Et en fait, c'est Edward qui est devenu le propriétaire de Pernon après la mort de son père. On a une lettre ici qui a été écrite par le maire d'Adelaide et elle a dit avec 3 enfants dont l'une meurt victime de la fureur populaire et l'autre de chagrin.
Elle est morte de chagrin.
Chagrin.
Elle était triste, elle était... Tu sais, elle était... elle pleurait,
Dépressive.
Oui,
Oui.
la dépression, tout. Donc, 80-82, ça doit être ceci là, que l'on voit là, ici là.
So our search for Adelaide has brought us here to the cemetery of Veru, and our Mayor Francis Sickley has actually come with us, and he's helping us find the lots of the Adelaide family.
« 84,
Toi,
84, 83,
81, mais 81 c'est
82.
mystère.
82.
82, c'est là.
There was a question mark. So it exists, but who's in it? It's not marked. C'est possible que ça c'est Adelaide parce que c'est entre, c'est avant Edward, donc c'est en fait c'est entre Benin et Edward. So it's between her mother and her brother.
C'est la 80.
That's Antoine Charles Achard.
Oui, c'est la 80. 81, bah, elle serait là.
Ok, ça c'est Benin Modeste de la Motte Barricée.
Oui.
Ça, c'est la
Après, on a 82.
So 82's here and potentially Adelaide's there. Edward and Catherine and Camille. The little 16-year-old Camille.
On n'a rien là, on n'a rien là, on n'a rien là. Là, on n'a rien non plus. Hein. On n'a rien non plus. Hein. Alors ici, ce sont mes arrière-grands-parents. Arrière-grands-parents. Là,
Oui.
mes grands-parents ici, du côté de ma mère. Et là, c'est ma mère et mon père qui sont décédés. Tu l'as connue, ma maman?
Oui, oui, oui.
Eh ben, tu la vois, elle est là.
Oui, oui.
Elle est là. Mon papa, lui, il est décédé en 97, oui. Et ma mère, l'année dernière, quoi, en 2023.
So we know that at least 6 members of the family are buried here, 7 members, and there's possibly an 8th member in the missing plot that's got a number but no name.
Yeah. So plot number 82.
82.
Which, like, theoretically would make sense that it would be Adelaide, because chronologically, in the order that family members passed away, 82 actually sits right after
exactly,
her mum
yeah.
and right before Edward, and so August isn't here. Makes sense that it was hers, but nothing's there.
Yeah, so it's interesting because we can obviously learn a lot about these people from the records at the commune,
Yeah.
and then coming here we can learn other things. It's hard because the tombs, while we have the numbers, we don't really have any identifying things
There's just
on the
nothing
stones
left of
themselves.
them, is there?
But it's very interesting, and obviously this entire cemetery is just it's just full of the history
Yeah.
of this community, the history of the people who've lived at the chateau, the different
Yeah.
families that have owned the chateau.
People
and,
that worked for
people that worked
the
there.
chasse or for the hunt or for
Yeah.
the chateau.
yeah, and by the way their tombs are marked, obviously their role at the chateau was the most important thing in their life, because that's the
Yeah.
thing that's been marked on their on their tombstone,
Well,
on their gravestone.
I still think we should continue our search to try and find Adelaide, because otherwise she just is non-existent. So
Well, I think there's still a few more things we can do.
yeah. Salut Emily, qu'est-ce que t'as trouvé?
Alors, les 3 domiciliés qu'ils m'ont déclaré qu'Adélaïde Achard est morte dans son domicile âgée de 29 ans.
En fait, ce que je trouve intéressant, Emily, c'est qu'elle avait 29 ans. Elle n'était pas mariée. Elle était chez elle, donc elle habitait au château pendant toute sa vie. Donc c'est un peu intéressant qu'elle n'était pas mariée. So we always
Pour
thought,
l'époque,
oui.
oui.
So it's quite interesting that at 29 she wasn't married. Maybe she had an illness, maybe she wasn't well, peut-être elle était malade. It says today, the 19th Frimaire, au 6th, so the 6th year, and the month is Frimaire, and so this is the revolutionary calendar. So we're going to have to find out the actual date of Adelaide's death and then be able to backtrack to work out the date of her birth as well. We need to understand the revolutionary calendar. It does solve a lot of questions that we've had about Adelaide. I think it also sparks some more questions, but an amazing discovery. The discovery of young Adelaide's death notice is both heartbreaking and a breakthrough in us piecing back together her life. It uses the revolutionary calendar. According to this record, she died 19 Frimaire in the year 6. It translates as the 9th of December 1797. Adelaide was just 29 years old, and this record states that she was born in the commune of Sully, which should facilitate our search to find her birth certificate. It appears that she passed away in her home at Château de Pernon and was found by her maid. With this new piece of information, we set to work to find her birth record. And successfully we did so. Here it is. She was baptised on the 5th of August 1768. Her parents had been married in the previous September at their family château at Coudray-Montpensier. Surprisingly, this tells us that she was their first child, a title we always thought had belonged to her brother Auguste.
So we started with just a name, and we've discovered when and where Adelaide was born, when and where she died, and perhaps a little of the circumstances of her death. And we found the place where most probably she is buried. And then we found this extraordinary document. It's a record of a birth in the village of Veru. A girl called Adelaide, not Adelaide Achard de la Haye, but the daughter of a local miller. And look, the record shows us that Adelaide Achard de la Haye is the godmother of this daughter. And at the bottom of this document, we can see her signature. It's the first time that we've found a mark that would have been made by Adelaide herself. And so for 10 years, Adelaide lived in this bedroom, here, that you can see behind me. She must have looked out that window 1,000 times, looking onto our English park. This is where she lived, and now we know a little of how she lived. So Adelaide's story is in many senses a very sad one. She died the year before her father, Antoine Charles, returned from the fighting after the Revolution. And so she wouldn't have seen her father for the last 5 years of her life. And I guess one of the reasons why we wanted to tell her story is because so often in history, particularly in noble families, the stories of women who died without getting married, without having children, are lost to us. The stories of the older sons who inherit the title and the estate, well, we often know those stories. The younger sons, they became soldiers or they served in religious orders. Sometimes they pursued a life in politics, and so their stories are remembered as well. They married, they had children, and their bloodline in a way continues. But for women who didn't marry and who didn't have children, they're really a forgotten group. And so rediscovering Adelaide's life in this way has really been very special for us.
Yeah, it has, and it has been heartbreaking as well. And I think for us, one of the interesting things was that so many of the assumptions that we'd made about Adelaide were actually incorrect. So Adelaide first appears to us in a letter written by her mother where she states that she has a daughter who has died of sadness, and that really, then it was really difficult for us to find any trace of her. And then she appeared to us next when we found the original plans of the chateau, and there was a bedroom behind her parents' room which turned out to be her bedroom and is noted in the archives as being her bedroom. And because the room was behind her parents' room, we just assumed that she must have been young to be positioned behind her parents. But that assumption turned out to be incorrect, because in fact she was 29 when she died and turned out to be the oldest of their children.
And it's interesting too, because when we've been going through the records at the commune and we've been able to see some of the other births, deaths and marriages, it appears that Adelaide became the godmother to a child who lived in the village, who was also named Adelaide in her honour. And so she must have been an active person, looking out for local people in the village. She must have been reasonably well liked for a family to have asked her to take on that role. And so in a way, bit by bit, with each document that we find, even though it's only the smallest morsel of information, it sheds just a little bit more light onto the life that she must have led.
Yeah, and she's actually not forgotten for forever, because in her dressing room is one of our original 18th century wallpapers, this spectacular wallpaper, and we named it in her honour in the Pernon papers, which have been developed by Farrow and Ball, bringing back to life these wallpapers here at the Chateau. So Adelaide lives on.
So if you'd like to follow the restoration of Château de Pernon more closely, remember we post a daily update on our Instagram stories, an exclusive weekly video on Patreon, and this week we tell the story of what happened, the incredible story, to what happened to the people living at the Château during that extraordinary period of the French Revolution.
Otherwise, just hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and we'll keep you updated here.